Hello, and welcome to my session of Protecting Your Fleet with Jamf Protect. My name is Kelly Watkins Conrad, and I'm excited to be here with you today to talk a little bit more about Jamf Protect and what it can do with your organization. Here's a nice picture of what I look like on a normal day, and I'm a field sales engineer at Jamf. I've been at Jamf for almost 9 years now. I spent 4 of those years working with the wonderful Jamf customers in support. So I have the best job at Jamf. Anyone that says otherwise is lying. But we're not here to talk about how much I love my job and what I get to do. Let's get right into why we're actually here today, which is to learn about Jamf Protect. So what are we going to be covering here today? We're going to be learning a little bit about what Jamf Protect actually is. So for those of you who are seeing Jamf Protect for the very first time, we'll go over what the product actually does. After that, we're going to be talking about how we can use Jamf Protect for monitoring and compliance and visibility into your Mac fleet, as well as using the native Mac OS tools. Then we're going to see a way to auto-remediate known Mac threats. And finally, how Jamf Protect can detect and respond to behavioral events for unknown threats. After we've covered all of those items, we're going to be talking about how we can deploy Jamf Protect and going through the process from start to finish together so you can see what that all looks like. So let's just dive right in. How many of you currently have a security solution for both your Mac and your Windows devices? I'm sure if we were all in the same room like we normally would be at JNUC, I'd probably see a lot of hands up right now. And Windows First products are just that. They're not Mac focused. And that means that they might miss Mac specific threats simply because they're just not looking for them. By using a solution that is looking for those Mac OS specific threats, your security team will rest assured that your Mac fleet is completely secured and that the expectations are met just like they are on the Windows side. At Jamf, we pride ourselves at being the industry leaders at managing Apple devices. Being so close to so many Mac admins and the Apple ecosystem, we noticed that as Macs became more prevalent in the enterprise, so did the concerns around security solutions dedicated to Mac OS. There wasn't really a focus from a security software vendor standpoint to provide solutions that better support the Mac. So where we saw that need, Jamf Protect stepped in and filled that role. So what is Jamf Protect? It's an endpoint security solution that is purpose-built for the Mac, taking advantage of native frameworks and tools that Apple has already built into Mac OS in order to ensure the best possible performance for the device, and of course, for your end users. We continually identify ways to enhance those native features to provide a comprehensive approach to Mac security. Ultimately, Jamf Protect is going to give you the power of monitoring, detection, prevention, and remediation. And that's what we're going to be seeing here today. To start, I'd like to talk about a use case for Mac first monitoring for visibility, compliance, and auditing. Every Mac comes preloaded with built-in security features like Protect, Gatekeeper, malware removal tool, developer signing, and notarization services. In this example that you're seeing here, we're seeing one of Mac OS's native tools, Gatekeeper, has been triggered from a compromised file. These baseline protections are great, and Apple does a really good job, but there are some areas that can be layered onto and extended in Mac first native ways. First is the visibility. Most organizations are unaware of how effective the native Mac OS security tools are, and with Jamf Protect, they will get all of that event data. The second is allowing your organization to respond in kind to your end users with a custom prompt like the one we just saw here. In this example, the prompt brings us to our company's IT page to remind us of the policies and procedures, and maybe reminding us that Handbrake may not be a work-appropriate application to have. Next, in the Jamf Protect interface, we can see the detection from the Gatekeeper activity. As you can see, we are pulling in as much data as possible about the event to make sure that your security teams can do an accurate analysis of any potential threats. This data will also be sent to your SIEM if you do have one configured in Jamf Protect. Now, the activity detection isn't the only visibility we are giving you into the native macOS tools. You're also able to see important information, like the file path the Handbrake was located at, as well as the hash information. Jamf Protect takes the visibility a step further with an embedded Apple security dashboard to have collected all the events from Xprotect, Gatekeeper, and MRT. We have added in compliance monitoring so that you can validate that your users are up to date on the latest versions, as well as enabling the newest and latest security features. And to continue on the topic of compliance, we are also auditing a large number of settings on the device that are currently mapped to CIN's benchmarks with our insights reporting. Helping you monitor and assess your organization's security baseline to determine compliance across your entire Mac fleet. Each insight collected is optional, allowing you to craft a tailored report specific to you and your security needs. For each insight collected, you have the ability to drill down into the details and see exactly which computers are compliant and hopefully not too many non-compliant. Threat detection allows your security team to get as much data as possible, and we can help you with that in two different ways. First is our analytics. Analytics are rules that detect threats or unwanted behaviors on your Mac. Each analytic allows for you to choose if it's something important that you want to be notified of, or if you simply just want to log that it's happened. You can also view these analytics. You can also tie these analytics into Jamf Pro to take additional actions on them. Another great source of visibility on a Mac is the unified logs. In order to do a proper analysis of potential threats or malicious events, you need to have as much data as possible. The more contextual data you have, the more informed you are. Without that, it's like looking at a jigsaw puzzle with half of the pieces missing. Tapping into unified logs, we can now pinpoint devices, the processes, and user data, which was otherwise siloed on each individual Mac. And that's adding to the evidence already collected by Jamf Protect from its curated event monitoring to get a complete picture of the events. And to analyze that data, we know that most organizations rely on a SIEM. Here's a look at a Jamf Protect dashboard in Splunk. Jamf Protect can go into any SIEM, but since Splunk is a really popular one that I know a lot of my customers work with, I'm using them as the example. The data is in JSON and comes over port 443 from the computer. The data is easily searchable and readable in most SIEMs. With unified logging, you can see we have a visual of activity from different endpoints. This data came from Jamf Protect filtering from unified logging and generating a JSON file. With these filters, you could easily collect activity like login attempts, password changes, or airdrop transactions. Those aren't necessarily suspicious activities on their own, but when visualized in a SIEM and combined with the alert data from Jamf Protect, you will have the ability to get the entire story instead of just the cliff notes. Threat prevention is a built-in feature that can detect, block, and quarantine malicious processes on a Mac. Threat prevention uses the Jamf Protect threat database, an extensive repository of signatures and certificate information associated with known macOS malware, to monitor computers for processes that match the database. When a match occurs, Jamf Protect can automatically block the matching processes and quarantine the associated file. Apple largely focuses on large, impactful threats, and they tend to steer clear of things that the user decides to do on their own, even if they've been tricked into it. To address this, Jamf Protect also delivers a threat prevention database curated by Jamf Security's research team. This will prevent an execution of known bad malware that isn't covered by Apple signatures. You can see in this video that the user attempted to run a process that is a known threat, and immediately upon execution, there is a signature match, and Jamf Protect blocks the process and removes the threat immediately. All of these results are reported back into our Jamf Protect UI. In here, we have highlighted all of the threat prevention activity. And just like the gatekeeper detection, we are collecting a robust level of information. Here's another example of some of the data collected by Jamf Protect. We are able to see all of the processes involved in execution, the binary, information on those processes, the path where it was called from, and of course, the hash information. In Jamf Protect, you will be kept up to date on any version changes in the database, as well as the option of creating your own custom prevent list to block processes that are unique to your organization's blacklisting them from a binary level. So what if we want to take a more customized approach to threats against our fleet? Well, for that, we're going to take a look at threat remediation. Let's take a look at some behavioral-based detection and another example of how we can do remediation. This is a really common workflow that you may already be familiar with. In this example, our user has been tricked into installing a fake Flash installer, a really common delivery mechanism for macOS malware. Downloading this installer triggers a Jamf Protect heuristic detection, which for illustration purposes, we have decided to remediate by pushing a policy from Jamf Pro, making the end user aware of what actions were taken to isolate their computer. On this example, we took action by cutting off this computer's network access. And this limits the impact of a possible breach, and it'll keep the user's computer quarantined until your security team has time to analyze it. Moving back into the Jamf Protect UI, we can see all of the information on the event has been reported back to us in order to be analyzed. And because more data is better in the security world, we're also able to view the actual URL that the malicious file was downloaded from. All of this information and more will allow your security team to make the best possible security decisions for your Mac fleet. So we've seen how Jamf Protect works, but now you're interested and now you want to know, how can I deploy it out to my Mac fleet? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we're going to go through on how you actually do that. To start, let's create an action. This is where we're going to determine where we want our data to go. So first, I'm going to go ahead and give my action a name, like my action plan. And I'm going to add a description in here, just saying this is how I want my alerts and my logs to be set up. Now that I've figured out what I want in my description, I'm going to go through and decide, do I want my data to go to my Jamf Protect console, or do I want to go to my local SIM? I also have the ability to decide what I want to be an alert. I can either have everything, I can have a custom setup, or just the bare minimum. But I'm going to leave it for everything. I continue scrolling down, and I can do the same thing with what I want to be logged. But for our purposes, I'm just going to leave that as everything and hit save. Cool. So all of that is taken care of. Let's go ahead and go to the next step. Next, we're going to create our organization's plan. We're going to hit create plan. We'll give our plan a really creative name like, oh, I don't know, my org's plan. And this time I'm actually not going to put a description. So in here, we're going to select the plan we just created. And we also have the ability to decide what we want for our Jamf Protect agent configuration and communication protocols. I'll hit save. And now I'm going to go and select which analytics do I want to be a part of this plan. But for our purposes, I'm actually going to select everything because I want to be notified of all these different items. Perfect. So now we can see our plan and all those analytics that I've just added in here. That looks good. So let's go ahead and let's take our next step of actually putting this together in a deployment package. Let's go ahead and create deployment. Then we're going to give this package a name like my org's deployment. Then we'll select the latest version of the Jamf Protect binary. Then we'll select the plan we just created together, my org's plan, and then I choose my log level. Everything builds on top of each other, so error has the least and verbose contains all of the above. But I think I'm just going to leave this as just error reporting for now. We can see that in our deployment package, we have our plan, all of the analytics that we've selected, and once you're happy with the configuration, we'll go ahead and hit save. Great. We are currently seeing that this package is now processing. This takes about 10 seconds or so, and so we'll just give it a little bit longer until we can actually download the package. Awesome. It looks like our package is ready to be downloaded. So I'm going to go ahead and hit download. And then this takes about 5 seconds or so, so maybe grab a drink of water while you wait. Feeling nice and hydrated. By the time you come back to your desk, we should now see that our Jamf Protect package is downloaded and ready to go. Awesome. So let's go into our Jamf Pro instance and let's upload this package. I'm using the Jamf Cloud distribution point here, but of course you can upload this into any file share that you have set up. I'm going to go ahead and drag my package into here, and then I'm going to go ahead and save to upload my Jamf Protect deployment package. Awesome. That looks good. So while we allow our package to fully upload, once it is completed, we're actually going to create a policy. So we'll go into Policies and we'll select New. In here, go ahead and give your policy a name like, oh, I don't know, deploy Jamf Protect plan, or whatever makes sense for your organization. I'm going to select a category because I'm a big fan of organized Jamf Pro instances. And then I'm going to select the recurring check-in for my trigger, once per computer. And I'm also going to check a new feature to automatically re-push that policy on failure, simply because it's really important to me that my Jamf Protect application goes out to all of my Macs. Then we'll hit Configure. We're going to find our Jamf Protect package that we just created together. There it is. Perfect. So that looks good. I'll leave everything on the default. Next, I'll pick my scope, and I'm actually going to scope this to a test computer that I have nearby. So normally, for most environments, you might select all of your Macs or have certain smart groups to have it to certain departments. But I'm just going to select my individual Mac and hit Save. Great. So we've deployed out our Jamf Protect deployment package, but there is just one more piece that you need to do in order to make sure that your Macs are completely secured. So next, we're going to be going to our GitHub page to download the Jamf Protect PPPC configuration profile. So you can go ahead and download that zip, and there it is waiting for you. Now, if you have an MDM, I highly recommend going this method instead. However, you could also do this manually by going into your system preferences, security and privacy, and then privacy to grant access to Jamf Protect. But again, if you are using an MDM like Jamf Pro, I highly recommend going this route because it's a lot easier to scale. So now that we've downloaded this profile, we're going to go back into our Jamf Pro instance, head over to Computers, Configuration Profiles, and then we're just going to upload that profile that we just downloaded. So instead of going through and manually creating this profile ourselves, we'll just let Jamf do all the work for us. So we have uploaded our profile and everything is already pre-populated for us. When we go into the configuration pane, we'll see that all the disk access is allowed to the level that we need it to be. So the only thing you have to do is go and find the Mac that you want to deploy this to, in this case, my test Mac, and hit Save. And that's it. You're now fully secured with Jamf Protect. As you can see, Jamf Protect brings a ton of value to any security-conscious organization. We have gone over what Jamf Protect is, how it can monitor, do threat detection, threat prevention, and threat remediation. And lastly, how you actually deploy Jamf Protect out to your Mac fleet. With the power of Jamf Protect in your hands, you're able to have 100% confidence that your entire Mac fleet is secured, and will also allow for the best possible end user experience. I hope you now have a better understanding of Jamf Protect and the value it can bring to any organization with Macs. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.